In the pouring rain, a broken woman walked alone with nothing but hope in her heart and a new life growing inside her. Delmar was completely exhausted. Her body ached with pain, her clothes were soaked, and her feet were bleeding from walking for 3 long days. She was pregnant, hungry, and had no place to call home. Her husband had left her when he found out about the baby. Her in-laws had thrown her out of the house, calling her a burden. The world had turned its back on her. Cold wind cut through her skin like knives. Rain mixed with her tears. She held her swollen belly tightly and whispered, "Please, just let us live." She had lost all hope when, through the darkness and heavy rain, she saw a small light shining from a lonely ranch house far away. That tiny light became her last hope. With whatever strength was left in her body, Delmar dragged herself towards the house. Her legs were shaking. Every step felt like the last one. When she finally reached the door, she knocked weakly with her cold, wet hand. The door opened slowly. A tall, strong man with a hard face and deep, quiet eyes stood there. His name was Emmett Walker. He looked at the woman in front of him, wet, trembling, holding her belly, looking completely helpless. For a few seconds, he said nothing. The rain continued to fall behind her. Then, without a word, he stepped aside and let her in. Emmett was not a man of many words. He lived alone on his small ranch after losing his wife and young son to a terrible illness many years ago. Since that day, his heart had become cold and silent. He worked hard on his farm during the day and sat quietly in the evenings, remembering his lost family. But that night, something inside him moved when he saw Delmar. He gave her dry clothes, a warm blanket, and hot food. Delmar ate slowly, her hands shaking. She was too tired to speak much. Emmett made a simple bed for her in the small guest room and left her to rest. The next morning, Delmar woke up feeling a little better. She looked around the clean but lonely house. She did not want to be a burden again, so she got up, even though her body was still weak, and started helping in whatever way she could. She cleaned the kitchen, made breakfast, and tried to keep the house neat. When Emmett came back from the barn, he was surprised to see hot food on the table and a clean house. Days passed slowly.
Emmett still spoke very little, but he noticed everything. He saw how Delmar tried hard not to be a problem. He saw the pain in her eyes and the love she already had for the child growing inside her. Little by little, he started caring for her. He brought extra milk from the town, made sure she rested, and even fixed the leaking roof so she would not feel cold. Delmar, on the other hand, found peace in that quiet house. For the first time in many months, she felt safe. She started cooking proper meals and taking care of the garden. She never complained about her past. But one evening, while they were sitting near the fireplace, she told Emmett her story, how her husband left her, how her in-laws threw her out, and how she walked for 3 days in the rain with nowhere to go. Emmett listened quietly. When she finished, he only said, "You don't have to go anywhere now." That was the beginning of their silent bond. They did not fall in love suddenly. It grew slowly, like a small plant in dry soil. First there was kindness, then understanding, then a deep care for each other. Emmett started smiling a little when Delmar made his favorite bread. Delmar felt her heart become light whenever Emmett came back home in the evening. One cold night, Delmar's labor pains started. Emmett became worried. He quickly prepared everything and rode his horse to call the doctor from the nearby town. The doctor arrived just in time. After many hours of pain and struggle, a beautiful baby girl was born. When the doctor placed the tiny baby in Delmar's arms, tears rolled down her cheeks. She looked at Emmett, who was standing near the door, watching them with soft eyes. "Her name is Grace," Delmar whispered. Emmett stepped closer. He looked at the small pink face of the baby, and something broke inside his hard heart. He gently touched the baby's tiny hand. In that moment, he knew this child was not just Delmar's. She had become his, too. From that day, Emmett treated Grace like his own daughter. He rocked her to sleep, sang old songs in his deep voice, and worked extra hard on the farm to make sure both mother and child had everything they needed. Delmar watched all this with love in her eyes. She realized she had fallen in love with this quiet, strong man who had saved her life that rainy night. One peaceful evening, while Grace was sleeping, Delmar decided to tell Emmett the truth she had been carrying in her heart. "Emmett," she said softly, "there is something I need to tell you." She took a deep breath and continued. 20 years ago, my father saved a man's life. That man was badly hurt in an accident. My father brought him home, took care of him for many weeks, and saved him. Before leaving, that man promised my father that if he or his family ever needed help, he would repay the debt. Delmar looked into Emmett's eyes. "That man was your father." Emmett was shocked. He sat silently for a long time. Delmar continued, "I never knew his name. I only knew the story. When I was walking in the rain, I did not know where I was going, but somehow I reached your door. It was not just luck, it was something bigger. Your father's old promise brought me here." Emmett's eyes became wet. He remembered his father telling him the same story many years ago about a kind man who saved his life and the promise he made. He held Delmar's hand and said in a low voice, "Then this was never an accident. You were meant to come here. You and Grace, you have healed my broken heart." That night, after many years, Emmett cried. He cried for his lost wife and son. He cried for the lonely years he had lived, and he cried with happiness because life had given him a second chance. A few months later, Emmett and Delmar got married in a simple ceremony at the small church in town. Grace wore a tiny white dress and slept peacefully in her mother's arms during the wedding. Their small family began a new journey.
Emmett's ranch became a warm and happy home. Laughter filled the rooms where there was once only silence. Delmar planted flowers in the garden. Emmett taught Grace how to walk and later how to ride a small pony. In the coming years, they were blessed with 2 more children, a boy and another girl. The house became full of noise, love, and life. Emmett was no longer the quiet, broken man. He became a loving husband and a caring father. Delmar found the respect and love she had always dreamed of. Together they faced every difficulty with strength and faith. They often told their children the story of that rainy night, how a small light in the darkness changed everything, how 2 broken souls found each other, and how an old promise from 20 years ago completed a beautiful circle of life. Years passed, but their love only grew deeper. On quiet evenings, Emmett and Delmar would sit on the porch, watching their children play. Grace, now a young girl, would run to them and sit between them. In those moments, they both knew the truth. Sometimes, when life takes everything away from you, it also prepares a new beginning in the most unexpected way. And sometimes, the light you see from far away in the darkness is actually calling you home. Thank you for riding along on this story. Drop your location and time one more time if you'd like, and if it touched you, send some stars, follow, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. See you in the next tale.